AWS Forecast build a predictor model to have a values of future scenarios. We are going to see a cases of history to predict early energy consumption based on past information. And you can read more about this topic in this book of data forecasting and segmentation using Microsoft Excel. The link to buy in Amazon is on this post. And Amplitude and Statistics, it is a member of AWS Activate participant. So first, we are going to load the data, load the historical data as evidence to predict the future. Okay, this is the average hourly consumption in kilowatts for client O from January to April. It will be the input data to make the prediction for this client. Then the model will split the data to train and test the test. The model will automatically split the historical data into parts. The model designing will consume the 80% of the data, and the 20% rest of the data will be used to evaluate how accurate it is the model designed by AWS Forecast. Then the model will make a self-test to generate different forecast scenarios. These scenarios indicate the range of probability for future values, and also will give the model accuracy using the mean absolute scale error that gives the error between the expected value and the real value. The AWS Forecast creates these indicators during the test of the model. So this is the input, and the output will generate these scenarios where we are going to see the P50 or the P average forecast of what we expect, and also what are the regions or the ranges of values that the forecast will is predicting. First, we are going to load the data. This is the input data of 3 clients. These are the consumption of energy for 3 clients from January to April, and this will be the input to generate the model and to make the predictions for these 3 clients. You can see that client O, it is consuming between 2 and 4 kilowatts per hour. The client 1, it is consuming between 20 and 30 kilowatts per hour. Okay, so this is the input data for the model. And then we are going to see that the predictor model scenarios of hourly consumption, once we use these input scenarios for these 3 clients, we get these forecasts for these 3 clients. You can see that for the client 0, the client 0 is here. The oscillation, it is between 1 and 3.5 kilowatts per hour from the input of data that we get from the consumption from January to April that we mentioned before. For client 1, the oscillation, it is between 23 and 30 and 40. You can see how it is the oscillation of the model that built this forecast between all the next 24 hours of energy consumption for the client 1. Okay, this is the input of data for client 1, and the model make this prediction of the forecast in this chart. Okay, for the client 102, here we have the client 102. We see that from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. it has a very low consumption. It is reflected here from 1 to 9 a.m. We can see that the consumption of this client is very low, and it starts to increase from 10 or 11 a.m. and we can see this trending line at 11 a.m. that it is starting to growing the consumption for this client. Okay, so this is the input, and this is the output or the forecast that we are getting from the AWS Forecast. Okay, so this is what are the capabilities of the forecast tool of AWS. For example, we are going to make this example of the design, test, and execute a predictor model. This is not the data from the energy consumption that we saw before, but we can see that here we have in red, okay, in red we have the model design, okay. This is the sales. It is on gray line, okay. This is the seasonal sales of a product. We design the model and then we test the model on the blue box and see what is the performance of the model. We can see that this is the actual sales, and the blue line, it is the predictor, okay. So we train the model and we test the model with this, and then we can test the model doing a forecasting, okay. So these are the three main parts of a design of a machine learning model. We train and design the model using the red area with this input of sales, of seasonal sales. Then we test with 20% of the data. We can see that this is the trending of, in gray it is the actual sales, and in blue it is the predictor line that it is giving the model. And finally we can get the forecasting for the next 2 years, okay, once we design and test the model, okay. So the model implementation is that first we have to create an S3 bucket in AWS. We have to store the dataset in the S3 buckets. Then we have to define an IAM role to use this in the AWS Forecast. We do the model training, we do the training predictor, and then we generate the forecast with the model accuracy, okay. So these are all the steps that we have to implement to use the forecast in AWS. We are going to see a video of how do we do the implementation. First, we have a bucket in Amazon S3 where we store the input data that the model will consume. Then we define an IAM role. This is the forecast role that we are defining here, and it is giving permissions to build the model. Then we are going to import the data in the forecast. Then we have to make a training, a predictor training like this. Here we have what is the qualification, what is the predictor, and here we have the mean absolute scale error of 0.85. That means that it is very close to 1. So that means that the model has a high accuracy. Okay. Then we test the model with first with the client 0. Then we are going to test with another client, with client 10, and we get the forecast. And the model builds the forecast for this client, and this is the answer of the forecast for this client that we are getting directly from the prediction of the AWS forecast. Then we use the client 3, and we can see that the model, it is generating the prediction for client 3. Okay, so this is the summary of how do we implement the AWS forecast. Okay, so next we have this is the forecast model. We have the historical data, the related data, like for example holidays, products, description, etc. We upload this historical data inside the Amazon forecast. We customize the forecasting model, and then we can visualize in the console. We can export the forecast as a CSV file, and also we can use the forecast can be retrieved using Amazon Forecast API and integrated into custom applications. Okay, so this is how do we implement the AWS forecast model.